Hey y'all, it's Nick. I'm filming this Sunday night at 9:40. So your spring break is just about over right now, and I hope you had a great spring break. Hope it was a really, really fantastic week off of school, and you just were able to relax or spend time with friends and family, or just have a really nice time off. I'm gonna do this video with a really, really low volume of voice. My 2-month-old is just went down, and I really, really don't want to wake him up. So I'm just gonna speak as quietly as I can. If you got to crank the volume up on this video, apologize. But yeah, hopefully y'all understand. So I'm gonna go through the week. We're starting Module 3. Module 3 is all about. We're gonna focus on really upper ages, grades 5 through 12. And I think I'm going to probably bring a lot of thoughts from my 7th grade experience in this week. And I used to teach high school as well. So this is the content I'm probably most familiar with and the discussions I'm most familiar with. And here's the kind of thing I want you to think about throughout the whole content, throughout the whole Explore segment content, is what do you do as a teacher, whether it's a geography teacher or a science teacher or a chemistry teacher or a math teacher or a PE teacher or an art teacher? When you're teaching, 7th grade or 11th grade or 12th grade, and you have a student in your class whose reading level is so low that they are struggling with your content. At this point, not even the English teachers are responsible for teaching reading. If you look at the state standards, comprehension is pretty much covered in about 7th, 8th grade. And around starting high school age, kids are just expected to read. They're expected to read and digest material. There is very, very little help for the kids who no longer, or for the kids who are struggling readers. So the English teacher and the science teacher and the math teacher are in the exact same boat. It is no longer your job to teach reading. What are you going to do? That's my question. What should be done for these kids? There's a lot of different approaches. Um, some students, some schools do pull-out classes during the reading or literature or ELA block of that student schedule. So rather than going to your 7th grade English class, you go to a special English class. Those ones are typically small groups of no more than 6. And there's ways to do that well. There's ways to do it poorly. Other schools take a kid's elective away. So elective teachers, I really, really do value your thoughts on this. Kid is no longer in art class. A kid is no longer in facts class, no longer in PE, because they're doing a reading intervention class during that elective, and they're in a regular ELA class. The reason for that most typically is because state testing's on reading and math, right? So your school's effectiveness, sadly, isn't measured by the well-roundedness of students. A school's effectiveness is measured by the government via students' math and reading scores, not if the kids are really good artists, singers, athletes, really good at showing how they are able to work with their hands. Yeah, they're not measured that way. So really looking forward to your thoughts on that, elective teachers and parents as well. I'd love to know your thoughts, parents. And then finally, the third option for helping these kids who are older and struggling to read. This is the most expensive option. So it's not always feasible, but it is to plant reading specialists into regular ELA classes. Now, I think we'd all agree that's the best way of doing it. That's the best method, is to keep kids in their regular English class so they don't feel socially ostracized. They're not losing an elective, and they have a specialist helping them with the work. The difficulty with that is, a reading specialist is going to be paid a full teacher's wage. Okay, so this is not a para getting $16 to $20 an hour. This is a full teacher's wage with benefits and everything. And so by having a reading specialist in your school, or 3 or 10 or however many, you are reducing the number of total teachers in the school that are content teachers, and your class sizes are going to go up. Okay, so think about that too. So the school I come from, Dickinson Middle School, uses this approach, and they have reading specialists planted into those classes. And we typically had 25 to 30 kids in a year, or in a class. So when you think of 25 to 30 students, yeah, you have your amazing reading specialists working with your kids. So there's 2 teachers in a room, but that specialist is working with 1 or 2 students, and then you have 27 that you still have to keep busy, and it's really, really difficult. So, there's pros and cons of each one. Your discussion post is going to be this question. Here's the 3 approaches, right? And I want to know what you think. I really do. I'm super curious. Now, the material that we're going to cover this week is going to cover a range of this different content that I just discussed. So, graphic novel is where we'll start. You're going to read your graphic novel that you selected, and you're going to have a discussion post on it, on if you think graphic novels are valuable or not. Why and were we talking about graphic novels? Well, when you have kids who can't read in a general ELA class, okay, like I did at my school, 27 kids in my class, and I'd have 2 or 3 kids who really, really struggled with reading in each class. One of the things we do is we use graphic novels, and graphic novels have the cues in them, right? They have the pictures that go along with the 3 cueing that we talked about, last module. You can cover up the words and you can figure out what's going on in the story still. So really, really low-level readers can comprehend graphic novels without fluency. Okay, so graphic novels have increased in popularity just massively, and I think one of the main reasons is because kids struggle to read. That's a hot take. I love graphic novels and I'm a good reader. So I'm not saying in every case if someone likes graphic novels, they must not be a good reader. No, not at all. But I think schools are buying graphic novels. They're one of the number 1 consumers of graphic novels. So we know that they're being used as an instructional tool. And I think a lot of that is coming from helping kids who struggle with reading because of things like reading recovery. It has the cueing system built into it. I don't know if that's good or bad. That's what your discussion post is on. Okay, so that's your first discussion and the graphic novel reading. You'll notice we have 2 discussion posts this week, but we don't have a quiz. That's because I just felt like the discussions that come from this material are much more important than the quiz. I know I'm running the risk of you guys not doing all the content. You might not read all of this. You might just read the graphic novel to do this, and then Sold Story to do this, and skip all that. I trust you. That's all I'm going to say. I know that school can be so busy, and you might have to pick and choose what you have to do. I hope you'll do it all. I pick things very, very intentionally because I think it builds a picture for you to understand. But I get that. No quiz means you can figure out how you want to do this the quick way if you want, and I prefer you not to. But so anyway, 2 discussion posts. First is on the graphic novel discussion. The second's on reading interventions. Let's talk about this content now. We're going to continue Soul to Story. There's 6 total episodes, and in this class, we're not going to get to all of them. We'll get to 4, and I am going to encourage you to listen to the other 2 to end out that podcast series. Then you have my podcast. I don't have a transcript. I'm so sorry. The reason I don't have a transcript is because I did a video interview with my old coworker, Casey. She's an incredible teacher. She's one of the best teachers I've ever met. She is a reading specialist today, but a year ago when I worked with her, and I worked with her for several years, she was my teaching partner in 7th grade general English class. So she's someone who's been in the classroom as an English teacher and as a specialist for the 7th grade interventions. So she has a really great take on all this content, I think. And I think what she has to say is so valuable. We have the dorkiest interview of all time. We are goobers. We are laughing. We are picking on each other. I'm talking weird, like all the stuff. So it's as genuine as you get. Watch the video if you want a good time. I also have the audio available though for running, going on a walk, all that. You can get all the material without seeing us. This is a Zoom interview, so our faces are like this big the whole time. You can see all my pimples and all that stuff. So it's not exactly high quality production, but should be entertaining. Okay, so then you got those. You can do video or audio. You can put closed captions on the video if you want to read. One of the things Casey will talk about is Scarborough's reading rope. And this is very, very, very short. It is essentially taking the big 5 of basic reading skills. And then it's saying, hey, those big 5 are the basics of reading. And then at a higher level, we're going to take that phonics and those decoding skills and sight recognition, right? Sight words, that would be the whole word approach of the Dick and Jane readers. We're going to take that understanding of how to recognize a word, and now we're going to take it into the context of literature and understanding language. And we're going to become a skilled, fluent reader when we are adding the big 5 to background knowledge, vocab, language structures, verbal reasoning, and literacy knowledge. So very simple. It looks complicated. I'm not quizzing you over it though, so don't overthink it. It's phonics and phonemic awareness. Help you understand words. Putting those words together into sentences and getting meaning from those sentences, which is fluency and comprehension, requires more than just knowing phonics, and that's what this is. Moving on, the last thing, I was actually going to write an article like this, and I'm almost done with it, but then I realized this article exists. It's really good. When we harm rather than help, thoughts on reading interventions. So, a lot of us already in this class have talked about how hard it is for someone in the 7th grade or 9th grade or 11th, whatever, to get pulled from their reading class. Okay. Getting pulled from that class, taken to a special room, and spoken in a baby voice, spoken as if they're not intelligent. Here's what's really, really interesting about this piece of reading is it's going to tell you why interventions are difficult. It's going to tell you why interventions don't always work. They get pulled from the fun classes, right? They get shorter text. They're spoken at. They have all this repetition, which is not fun. They don't get the choice. They don't get the engagement. They don't get the time. They don't get the challenge, right? They stay there. They get interrupted there. I mean, this is really showing a sad picture of reading intervention. I think there's a way of doing it well. I think there's a lot of times it's not done well. And what's probably the most interesting thing is the author of this passage actually talks about this person named Penny Kittle, who is the most popular reading instructional coach in the world today. And she comes from the reading recovery movement that Sold a Story is just destroying, right? Sold a Story is invented to take down a company. If we were really honest, Sold a Story exists to destroy Heinemann Publishers. Penny Kittle is the foremost publisher of today. She's the person that I went to all the time last year. And I've told you guys before, I was not a good teacher last year because of this stuff from her. So it's really interesting is this is an article that's ripping apart reading interventions, and it's using Penny Kittle as a source. And yet at the exact same time, I'm giving you another source that's ripping apart Penny Kittle, okay, and her studies. What am I saying here? It's not nice and tidy is what I'm saying. Teaching is not going, there's not like this killer or perfect arrow. There's not this like one method of doing everything perfectly. And I'm giving you tastes. I'm giving you tastes and Sold a Story of the cognitivist phonics. We only do phonics. We're gonna teach these kids to read by the big five and the big five only. Then I'm giving you a reading interventionist on my podcast who's my good friend. Then I'm letting you read an article that's saying this is why we shouldn't have reading interventionists, and it's quoting the person that's getting destroyed in Sold a Story episode 3. All of this is painting a picture, okay? It's messy. There's a lot of complexity to it, and that's why this is an explore module. I don't have a target for you guys here. I'm not asking you to all say the same thing in your discussion posts. I don't want you to all say the same thing. I want you to read these sources or listen to these sources and come away with different conclusions because, quite frankly, these are not all saying the same thing. I hope that makes sense. I want you to have that freedom to disagree with each other, to disagree with me. I want you to have that freedom to say, yeah, that was a good article, but I disagree for this, and this reason. Be a thinker, okay? That's the whole heart of these explore models is I give you multiple tastes. It's a charcuterie board, okay? It's not a bean dip. It's a charcuterie board kind of experience. Okay, that's a long video, but I really hope it's helpful. My baby has not woken up, so that means I was at least successful in making the video. Hopefully I was successful in communicating the class goals too. And I hope you guys just have a great week. Please reach out to me if you need help. The 2 discussion posts this week. The instructions are right in there. This one's going to be longer. And I want you guys to really take this information and digest it and chew it and think about it. So, alrighty, y'all. Thank you for listening. And come find me in the office if you need anything. See ya.